Warning, this part of the episode deals with adult themes and situations that may not be appropriate for younger audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. Anyway, we go into number 511, whose cover features a woman who looks like Gwen Stacy being unmasked. Just to spoil this ahead of time, Sarah here apparently has a resemblance to Gwen, so all this cover is a fake out. It's not a terrible cover, but that's all they've got going for it. Guess who?
Why, it's Old Man Withers, the guy who runs the haunted amusement park. And I would have got away with it too if it hadn't been for you snooping kids.
Peter swings off, needing to figure out how it's possible that these two could be Gwen's kids if they're adults. He goes to MJ and offers to make her breakfast, but MJ knows that he only does that if he says he can't stay. I'd better get those eggs going. The hard part is finding a free-range pterodactyl at this hour of the morning, then catching it, then squeezing the eggs out of it. As if that weren't bad enough, last time it turned out to be a male pterodactyl. He says that, but the Savage Land is a thing in the Marvel Universe. I would not put it past companies in story to harvest dinosaurs and, sell pterodactyl eggs as a delicacy. MJ laments in her mind that Peter is trying to protect her all the time from the things he's going to be doing, and that gets in the way of her trying to protect him. But sometimes I want to protect him, and I can't do that when he's too busy protecting me, when he's keeping secrets. But I have to respect his secrets, because that's what I do. I keep people's secrets. For example, my Aunt Anna is actually a Skrull. So, what is Peter doing that requires him to be secretive? Digging up Gwen Stacy's grave. Okay, now they're just making literal what they do every few years when it comes to Gwen in the Spider-Man books. Forgive me, Gwen. It's the only way to be sure. And I know you'd want me to be sure. Admittedly, you probably wouldn't want me to dig up your corpse to do it, but I don't hear you objecting or anything. You know, if you really wanted to know for certain, you know 3 or 4 people who can talk to the dead and confirm it without needing to grab some of your ex-girlfriend's bones, dude. Why are you doing this during daytime? Still, this is of course emotionally difficult for him, and he stops several times, even collapsing. Sarah and Gabriel are watching this from afar. Gabe? I said, what's he doing? Confirming his worst nightmare. That he actually doesn't know where Gwen Stacy's grave is. He spent the last hour digging up the grave of Fiorello LaGuardia. We cut to Mary Jane rehearsing for her play. See, there are always 2 ways to find out the truth. The real, total, and absolute truth. The first is to build a giant supercomputer named Deep Thought, and the other is to question Jack Nicholson on the witness stand. The first is to ask a cat. What's the meaning of life? I think she said Skittles? Why a cat? Because cats always lie. Ask a cat a question and the truth is the opposite of whatever answer you get back. But cats can't talk. That's what they want you to believe. Who knew cat truthers were a thing? Since cats always lie and everyone knows cats can't speak, then the truth is that they can speak and do all the time.
There is logic in what he says.
So what's the second way of finding out what the truth is? I look in your eyes. And I apply exactly the same rule. Everyone knows men can't talk either. After they break for the day, one of the other actors invites Mary Jane to his place with them to hang out and go over a few more scenes, but she declines. For some bizarre reason, they interpret this as her being a prima donna, since Mary Jane is more well known as a model and minor actress in Hollywood. And this scene has nothing at all to do with anything. Yeah, the whole telling the truth thing is significant, as we'll soon see, but the play rehearsal and the cat stuff? I don't know. Maybe Black Cat was originally supposed to be part of this storyline. It just ends up being padding. With whatever genetic material Spidey was able to get from her remains, Spidey breaks into a lab to test it. He figures whoever licked the envelope that was originally sent with the letter left enough genetic material to test, so he hopes this will confirm one way or another if they're really Gwen's kids. While he ponders this, Sarah enters and aims a gun at him. She says that her brother wants to prolong this, kill everyone around him first, which makes it very odd that he didn't actually kidnap Aunt May then, but that she just wants this over with. She wants him to let her kill him to spare his loved ones. However, the machine finishes processing the results and that distracts her, allowing him to go in and knock her down. He unmasks her and indeed reveals the resemblance to Gwen. Gabe thinks I look just like the pictures we've seen of my mom. What do you think? I think it's weird that you're wearing the exact same headband as her. What's up with that? Gabe blows out a window in the lab, allowing Sarah to escape. Spidey looks at the results and indeed gets the confirmation that they're his kids. Sarah lies to Gabe, claiming that she got in too close and not that she intended to murder him early. However, she's clearly disturbed by something while he rants. It just confirms what we already knew, what he was confirming for himself up in that lab. He's our father, and he abandoned us, deserted our mother, and caused her death. If he needed to confirm that you were his kids, doesn't that imply he didn't know you existed and therefore didn't abandon you? Peter returns home where MJ is waiting. She dug out the letter and read the imprints on the other side, saying she knows who they are now. Then you have to know. You have to believe me, MJ. I swear to God, MJ, they're not my children. Gwen and I didn't... We never... And this I kind of have to call bullcrap on, because it's kind of a plot point, and it has to do with the editorial changes relating to this story. So here's the thing. In universe, until this story, there has never been actual confirmation that Gwen and Peter ever slept together. So I freely admit that I could just be talking out of my ass here. One of the reasons I've heard speculated among fans as to a reason behind this storyline's existence is to knock Gwen Stacy off of a pedestal that fans and creators, and consequently Peter, had put her on, as some kind of saintly, innocent, heavenly angel who had never done anything wrong before. And part of that is a kind of puritanical view of her, that she'd be a virgin. And that is a gross enough sentiment to hold as it is, that women have to be chaste to be innocent or good, made only worse by who the father turns out to be and how they depict Gwen in this story, and grosser still by sentiments expressed by our old pal, Joe Quesada. I have softened on Quesada in recent years because of my growing distaste for fan entitlement and the resulting toxic behavior exhibited by fans of any given property. But let's be clear here. He still has said some remarkably dumb and wince-inducing things, especially when it comes to Spider-Man. In a post-One More Day interview with Comic Book Resources, he explained JMS's original premise for this story. It's not like this was a huge revelation. JMS had already discussed the original premise of the story elsewhere. I'll get into specifics with this in a little bit, because we should see how things play out before I explain all that. But one particular bit should be noted in regards to this whole Gwen Stacy is virginal thing. That he was uncomfortable with the implications of a story dealing with the repercussions of Peter and Gwen having unprotected or careless sex out of wedlock. Like I said, I could be talking out of my ass here, but with the sliding timescale of comics, the events of her death would have happened in the 90s. Peter and Gwen were adults in college and were dating. They banged! Out of wedlock. What creepy, outdated weirdo cares if the two were married before they had sex? Why even assume they were having unprotected sex? Condoms break and are only so effective. Point is, this is the attitude of Marvel's then editor-in-chief when it comes to Gwen Stacy, which is especially hilarious given the explanation we're gonna have for the kids. So yeah, if this story was about knocking Gwen off her pedestal, the way they decided to do it has horrible implications related to the idea of her not being a virgin. And that's not what they focus on. No. There are, of course, much worse things in this story that makes it so hated. But it's important we just examine every angle from which this comic sucks. Subsequently, new t-shirt. This comic sucks. Link in the description. Can you believe I've gone 12 years without a This Comic Sucks shirt? Like, holy crap. And yet my idiocy still pales in comparison to this story. Anyway, the issue ends with MJ stating she knows who the real father is of the kids, and yeesh, the cross-hatching shadows are really not doing her any favors, especially since they're all over her lips too. Kinda makes it look like she was sleeping on some newsprint or something. Issue number 512's cover has Spidey fighting Gabe and Sarah in the wires of a suspension bridge. Layout-wise, the cover is fine, but yeah, Deodato screwed up Sarah's artwork. Aside from the fact that it's hard to tell that she even is Sarah, both she and Gabe are drawn the same way, implying a masculine figure on both. What the hell happened to her feet? Was Liefeld doing guest pencils on them? Why are they so stringy and tiny compared to the other two? You can't claim foreshortening as the problem here when Gabe's feet are perfectly fine from the same distance. So yeah, MJ's admission, which brings us to major retcon number 2. As Peter notes, the only way she could know who the father is was if she either just found out or she's known the whole time and never told him. And since this story is all about screwing over Peter's love interests, guess which option they went with? Yeah, this is a horrible thing to do. Borderline character assassination, which is especially shocking from JMS, who loved these two as a couple. The idea that Mary Jane has known about this during their entire marriage, especially the details we're about to learn, are heinous and the kind of thing you can't just sweep under the rug like the story does at the end. You have to understand, all my life, people have come to me, trusting me with things they never tell anyone else. I don't know why. I don't go out of my way. It just happens, that's all. Oh, well, when you put it like that, go to hell. I didn't tell you because she asked me not to, begged me not to. She was scared, desperate. I gave her my word, Peter. You know what that's like. You know what it means to swear something so deeply that you just can't. She has been dead for years with children that Peter would have liked to have known about. Her death has haunted him so much that writers keep shoving women off the George Washington/Brooklyn Bridge so Spidey can keep saving them. It might have been important to let him know. She says she just didn't know how to broach the subject, but you do it the same way you do any serious topic. This is just an asinine way to have MJ reveal it all. Anyway, she tells the whole story of how she found out, once again flashing back to Harry's relapse. Norman didn't take Harry to the hospital because he was afraid of a scandal hurting his company, and when he got home, Gwen volunteered to go talk to him about it. After a long while, MJ went to look for her and overheard an argument between Gwen and Norman. She threatens to take him to a hospital or else she'll reveal the truth to his board of directors. And, of course, Norman reveals that the twins are his. Norman Osborn is the father of Gwen Stacy's children. So, yeah, please be patient because we should walk through the rest of the plot points here before we start screaming, "What?" at the top of our lungs over and over. Norman says that Harry is useless, weak and ineffectual, and that he needs a real heir to his empire. This retcon I'm a bit iffier about, because Norman was an abusive father, so I could see him having that attitude. But even in the issue this has all been a flashback to, Norman expresses concern over his well-being multiple times. A lot of his psychosis as the Green Goblin is centered around what he feels is Peter screwing with Harry, blaming all his problems on Peter and all that, so him being all, "No, I have to worry about getting these twins so they can be my heirs," kind of feels like bullcrap when that's not what was going on in the original story. Again, it's like they only half remembered the story. It's not like it would have been hard to get a copy of it. You'd think somebody in the creative process would have read the damn thing to make sure everything jives. Gwen says that she's never gonna let Norman raise the twins, even saying that she'll die before she'll let him anywhere near them. She also admits that not only were they born 2 months prematurely, but fully grown. Again, how did she hide this pregnancy? Especially if they were growing that fast. Anyway, she says that she'll raise the kids with Peter, that he's the only man she'd trust with being their father. Yeah, it's a real damn shame Mary Jane never mentioned him before now, isn't it? Norman just says that the two will be his true legacy because of their special Osborn blood. Gwen walks out and encounters MJ, whereupon she explains how this happened. 7 months earlier, she had gone to see him for some unknown reason and found him sad, almost broken. And I felt so badly for him. But at the same time, there was this strength, this magnetism, as though there were the person I knew on the outside, and deep inside, this other person, so powerful, yet so mysterious.
No.
Nope.
I didn't intend for it to happen, but it was as if there was something inside him that was so strong. I couldn't walk away. Excuse me, everyone. I need to go and vomit for the next 1,000 years. Just wow! Apparently Norman frickin' Osborn was just so damn sexy that Gwen had to jump his bones, huh? That's really the explanation you want to go with, huh? That he was sad, and yet so magnetically mysterious and hot that Gwen just couldn't turn away. Congratulations on winning the Totally Understands How Women Work award, Marvel! If the goal was to knock Gwen off her pedestal, fat friggin' chance, all it really did was indicate that the creative team had less imagination than porn writers to come up with a reason why this would happen. And oh yeah, apparently a story dealing with the repercussions of Peter and Gwen having unprotected or careless sex out of wedlock is unthinkable. But Gwen cheating on Peter with a man 30 years older than her while also having unprotected sex? That's A-okay! And in turn, MJ went back inside during the retcon vision not to grab her purse, but to slap Norman, who, by the way, is drawn to resemble Tommy Lee Jones just to add another layer of ew on top of everything else. And thus Peter reasons that this must mean that that's why the Green Goblin grabbed Gwen Stacy when he could have grabbed anyone else to attack him, trying to kill two birds with one stone. And there's your next major retcon. Instead of Gwen being a victim of circumstance, just happened to be someone Peter loved, he specifically targeted her because of the kids. I think the idea was to absolve Peter of any guilt in her death, but that just comes from her character assassination. What were you thinking? Were you thinking? Allison? My God, what revelations does your appearance hold?
Okay, Linkara, we all got together and we talked about this and we decided, no.
What do you mean, no?
Look, we all know for these 100th episodes, you get together and have these big skits or a parody of something from the comic. You have a song, a dance number. You have a bunch of cameos from people. And we decided this time, you know what? No.
I don't know what you mean.
You were going to have me appear as the love child of SF Debris and Mecha Kara, and there were these cameos from these other reviewers playing different roles, and we all agreed it was horrible, and we're not doing it.
All of you?
Well, except for Welshie, he was on board for all of it. He volunteered to play every role, in fact.
But it's the 600th episode! I've got to have something big for it!
Why don't you just review the comic? I mean, you already know it's gonna be like a 1,000,000 years long episode. Why don't you just, not pad it out?
I guess not. It's weird to not have any big skit in relation to one of these milestone episodes. Maybe you want to do this as a crossover?
Nope, I don't think so. I read what this comic's about. You're on your own. Unless you want to finally acknowledge Fat Grandma's a character and user.
I am pretty sure I don't know who that is. Bye. Peter exposits about how this all makes sense now, filling in the details. How Norman, after recovering from being stabbed in the chest with his own glider, we'll get to that part of the Clone Saga eventually, trust me, went to Europe to find the kids and raise them to hate Peter Parker and Spider-Man, without bothering to tell them that they're one and the same, I guess. And did so by claiming Peter was the father and had abandoned them. And of course, that just raises the question of why the hell he'd lie about Peter being their father. Didn't he want them as his heirs to his business empire? He can still claim Spider-Man killed their mom. This hinges on the kids not wanting to meet Peter Parker for themselves. And hell, while this explains their physical growth, it does nothing to explain their mental growth. These two are still only a few years old. It doesn't matter how much they look like adults, they don't have the mental reasoning capacity to fully grasp a lot of this stuff. Oh, and time again for our gross virginity stuff as Peter stammers out the question of whether or not Norman was her first time. And for God knows what reason, we needed a shot of of Gwen Stacy in the throes of sex and, well, Norman Osborn grinning like this. Many fans have called this Norman Osborn's O-face, but is that what he really looks like during sex? Yeah. Who wanted to see this? Did Straczynski script it like this? Why did no one tell him no? Oh, and of course, Peter's guttural, emotional reaction, letting out this primal scream of rage at the man who orchestrated this latest nightmare. There's but a single thing that Peter can yell to echo across the surface of the earth.
My boat.
Hi, kid. No, we get a splash page of Peter in the darkness screaming, Osborn! Like he was doing the frickin' Khan scream. Ironically, this is still a better presentation of the Khan scream than the actual Star Trek II comics version. It's so cheesy and dumb like this. I think the reason it doesn't work and just comes across as kind of hilarious is for two reasons. Well, three if you count he's doing it in reaction to such a horrible story. Firstly, it's because Deodato decided to make it a close-up. I think the idea was that if we're closer to him, we're more intimate with Peter's emotional rage, but it doesn't come across that way. We should be farther away so he looks small and pitiful. Plus, like I was being sarcastic about, suggesting that his yell is echoing out from how loud it is. Secondly, I think it was a mistake to have him actually say Osborn's name. A scream of anger, yes. The following page has him start trashing the place in anger. That works better, but screaming the name just seems goofy, like it was out of an action movie.
Mendoza!
Hell, even that clip works better because of the zoom out. Actually, you know what this is like? It's the Darth Vader no scream from Revenge of the Sith. Sometimes it's better to not say actual words. Osborn! Damn you and your lemonade! But anyway, let's conclude this issue so we can talk about some more stupid with this. Peter is finally able to calm down and by morning admits to MJ that he doesn't hate her for keeping this from him, that this changes nothing. Okay, look, I'm the biggest champion of Peter and MJ's marriage there is, but this is the kind of thing that should at least hurt their relationship a little and require some counseling, not swept under the rug and forgotten.